Hi, this is Joanne Hewins from LoveToCreate.typepad.com. Today I want to talk to you about how to make this card. This uses the stamp set To a Wild Rose, and this can be found on page 141 of our annual catalog, and it has some dies that go with it. These are the Wild Rose dies. We'll also be using in our card today the stitched nested labels. So let's get started with the card. I just love Granny Apple Green, Gorgeous Grape, and Highland Heather together. I just think they look beautiful. Our card base is Granny Apple Green. It's 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. And then I used my bone folder to burnish the fold. And then we have a piece of Gorgeous Grape. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And then a piece of the Highland Heather, which is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. We'll also be doing the inside of our card, and we'll have a piece to go in that should be 4 by 5 1/4. We'll get to that a little bit later. So let's get started with the card. And we're going to start with the Highland Heather layer. And we'll be using the large flowers from the stamp set. Now, I will not be using the outline. We'll be using this detailed piece and then this full flower piece to help us with this. And I've got these mounted on my blocks so that this little piece that juts out is about in the same place. That's the little piece that I'm going to use to match. If you can match that and then right down around here, the whole thing is going to match. We'll start with the detailed layer. I'm keeping this in mind because I want to have that on my card front, so I'll have that to match. So we'll be stamping with Highland Heather on the Highland Heather background. So I'm going to stamp that, still looking for this piece right here. And I'm just going to stamp that randomly over my card front. And I'm going to turn that around so I still have that little piece that I'm looking at. Okay, that looks pretty good. And now with the more solid piece, I'm going to stamp that off. And then I'm going to be looking for this. And I'm going to match that and that other piece. Okay. Now you can't really see that well, but now you could use your Stamparatus to do this, but since I'm going over the whole card, I wouldn't have it in place. I'd have to reposition it every time. So we don't really want to have to do that. Okay, so that's our piece for this part of the card. Now I mentioned that we were going to be using these stitched nested labels, and for that we're going to be using this one to get the label for our card. Now there's also a nice label that's included with the Wild Rose. This one right here, I could have easily used it in the card. So I have the label done, and now what I need to worry about is getting my stamping done for the rest of the card. This is going to be done on a piece of Whisper White, and we did this card in class last week, and I had included in the box that they could look at how to stamp all of this so they could get it on this sheet of paper. I'm just going to use one of these to help us, and we're going to be using Gorgeous Grape for this one. And I'm just, since we're going to a darker color, I think I'm okay not to really clean that. So I'm going to do the more detailed one, looking for that place right there. And then we'll do the more solid one. I'm going to stamp off and then match that. So there's my flower. Now, I'm also going to be stamping the inside of this flower with the Gorgeous Grape, so I'll go ahead and do that. Now, for the leaves, that's also a two stamp thing. There is an outline of the leaves, but we're not going to be using that. So we have two leaves here. I call one a little bit more detailed, and that's simply because it has the stem. So we're going to start with that. Let me get my Granny Apple Green pad out. Okay, so we're going to stamp that. And then I'm going to get the one that's a little less detailed. It doesn't have a stem. And we're going to stamp that off. And oops, well, wouldn't you know it, I'm going to stamp that off. And I'm going to kind of line that up where the stem would be and stamp that. Now I would need to do two more leaves in the word blessed. Before I put all of this away, I'm going to pull in the inside of my card and stamp the flower for that. And on the inside, the flower is going to go down in the corner. So might as well do your stamping while you're stamping, right? So I'm going to pull in the Gorgeous Grape. I'll do the more detailed stamp, which I have misplaced. I know it's right here in front of me. Here it is. You don't do that, do you? I do it all the time. I'll be stamping this here. I'll come back with the less detailed. Stamp off. And then I want to match that place there. And then I want to bring in and do the center of my flower. Now for the leaves, I made a mask, and to do that, we're going to use Post-it notes. I'm going to stamp the more solid piece because that's going to cover the outside. So I'm just going to stamp that so that the sticky part is covered with part of the stamp. And then you would merely just cut that out with your snips. Now I have one that we used in class, so I'm just going to pull it. It's still got a little bit of sticky. I'm going to pull it over here and we will match that. I'm just going to stick it right down so that it matches and covers up that stamp. Then I'll pull in my Granny Apple Green. I'll do the one with the stem, and I'll just have that coming out. and then I'll do the other one. I'm going to stamp off. Now I really feel almost like I could have just had that one stamp and not done the two-part on the leaves. And I can see right now I didn't get that match so great, but we'll let that go for now. And then we have a saying. On the front it says blessed. On the inside it says to know you. So I'm going to go ahead and get my grape, and we'll add that to the card. So I've got a mess. I've got a piece of green there, and that's crooked. We're going to go on. I think you get the idea, and you see that nobody's perfect. So we're going to put together the card, and you will use the wild rose framelits. This is the flower, and this is the leaf that we used. You'll end up with 1 flower and 3 leaves. And I've already got that cut out and ready to go. So we'll just, we will need to cut out the word blessed. There's not a framelit for that. So I don't know why I like to cut around words, but I do. So we'll just cut around that. I started to say quickly, but it's probably not going to be that quickly. And you can choose to go way down or not, however you're feeling. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I'm turning the paper instead of the scissors, and that makes it a little bit easier. So I think we've got all of our pieces ready to go. I'm going to adhere the, I'm going to turn this over so this piece is on the back. And I'm going to adhere the gorgeous grape to the card base. Try to center that as best you can, and then we'll add the Highland Heather layer, and I'm going to put, you see where I'll drop that green up there? I'm going to put this up in this corner because these leaves go up that way, and I can probably finagle that around to hide that. All right, and then we're going to take some dimensionals and add this to the back, the stitched label. And we're going to put that right in there. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add our flower. And this particular flower, I can see that I left that center out. So I'm going to go back and put that in. Okay. So I'm going to put some snail down the center of that, but because I want to put my leaves in there, I'm going to leave some place where I can tuck those in. Okay, And so I'm going to put a leaf out this way, and I do kind of want to try to, oh, I could have done a better job cutting that out. But, so I'm going to put a little bit of snail under in this area and stick that down under there. And then I'm going to put my leaf out that way so that it covers up that green. I'm going to add a dimensional underneath that end and hold it in place. Okay, now for the next leaf, I'm going to put it out toward this corner. So I'm just going to add a little bit there. That's going to stick underneath the flower and go over in that area. And then I do have another leaf that I'm going to stick out this way. Okay, and I do want to put some dimensionals underneath at least some of these leaves to hold them up. Probably I would put them under all of them sticking out, but in the interest of the video, I'm just going to put them on one. Okay, and then we're ready to add the word blessed. So I'm going to need to put a dimensional underneath the B, and then you could use glue dots or a little bit of glue. I'm going to try using just a little bit of glue. I don't want to get a lot. To hold that down. So let's put that maybe about right there. Okay, so there's the front of the card. Now on my sample, I did have a little bit of the striped, mini striped gorgeous grape. It just looks so pretty on there, and I had a little piece of it, so I just stuck it kind of up under a leaf and then trimmed the ends. So that was certainly something that you can do. And then this would go on the inside. I'm not going to put mine in there because I think I'm going to redo it so it doesn't have the smudge and the words are straight. But here's what the inside would look like. So there you go, quickly how to make this card with To a Wild Rose. You can get all of these supplies from me in my online store. If you'll go to Love to Create, there's a link there, or I'll put a link in this video. Again, I'm Joanne Hewins. I would love to be your demonstrator if you need one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.